Students, welcome to session 5 on dual nature of radiation and matter. Now in today's session, we'll just see how Davison and Germer experiment was conducted and how this experiment tried to confirm the wave nature of an electron. Before starting this session, let me summarize the contents of the previous session. In the previous session, you studied about the properties of a photon. To name a few, photon is electrically neutral. It does not get deflected when placed in electric or magnetic fields. And then you studied about de Broglie's hypothesis, which says that nature loves symmetry. If radiation can exhibit dual nature, matter also will exhibit dual nature. And then you studied about matter waves. Matter waves are those waves which are associated with the material particles in motion. And you studied about the de Broglie's equation, which is lambda is equal to h by p, where lambda is the de Broglie wavelength, h is Planck's constant, p is the momentum. And these are few different forms of the de Broglie's equation. mv represents the momentum of a material particle, and in this expression k represents kinetic energy of the particle. Then here v represents the potential through which the electrons are accelerated. Now in today's session, there are two important principles, namely Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and Max-Born's probability interpretation. Now let us see the first principle, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now based on the two experiments, namely Einstein's photoelectric effect and then de Broglie's hypothesis, Heisenberg came to a conclusion that measuring position and momentum of any particle at the same time exactly is not possible. And this is applicable only for microscopic particles. Microscopic particles, namely electrons, protons, etc., which are very microscopic in nature. When they start moving, some waves are associated with them. So to measure the position and momentum at the same time exactly is not possible. For example, now if we consider macroscopic particles in our day-to-day life, like if you have to find out the position of a car with some reference point, then it is easy for you to locate the position of the car. You can say the car is at a distance of some 100 meters from the reference point, and if it is moving, you can just also measure the momentum. If you know the velocity and if you know the mass of the car, you can easily measure the momentum of the car also. Which means for macroscopic particles, the measurement of position as well as momentum at the same time is possible, but this logic is not applicable to microscopic particles which are in motion. So he tries to explain this concept. Now if you just look at the principle, according to the principle, it is not possible to measure both the position and momentum of an electron or any other microscopic particle at the same time exactly. This is what you have to mention, exactly. You cannot measure both position and momentum of a microscopic particle which is in motion at the same time exactly, which means there is some uncertainty in measuring the position. X represents the position, delta x represents the uncertainty in position, and some uncertainty in momentum. P represents momentum, delta P represents uncertainty in momentum. So he says there is always some uncertainty in the specification of the position and some uncertainty in the specification of momentum, and the product of these two, the product of delta x and delta p, is of the order of h cut. This h cut is equal to, it's a constant, it is equal to h by 2 pi, where h is Planck's constant. So you need to understand the product of these two is approximately equal to h cut. So this equation is called Heisenberg uncertainty equation, mathematical form of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You have to read this as h cut. H cut is equal to h by 2 pi. H is a constant. So the product of this is approximately equal to some constant. And if you just do exactly the mathematical calculation, this comes out to be the product of delta x delta p is always greater than or equal to some constant h by 4 pi. So always the product is greater than or equal to some constant which is h by 4 pi. So this principle is very important in quantum physics. Now this is modern physics. In modern physics he says you cannot measure both position and momentum at the same time exactly. There is always some uncertainty which you cannot predict properly in position as well as momentum. Now let us see in detail in the next slide. Now let us go to the next interpretation which was made by Born. This is called Max-Born's probability interpretation. Now when you consider an electron to be associated with the wave and it is moving as a wave, you cannot exactly predict the position of the wave, is it not? So when an electron is moving as a wave, then you cannot exactly locate the position of the electron. So he says the position uncertainty is infinite. According to this, the electron is not localized, which means it is not exactly located at one position. So it is not localized in any finite region of space, and hence the position uncertainty is infinite. So if you have to find the probability of the electron probability is more in a region where the intensity of the matter wave is more. So when you have a wave picture, then wave has an amplitude. So the positions where the amplitude is maximum, in that positions the intensity is maximum. You know the relation between intensity and amplitude. Intensity is directly proportional to the square of the amplitude. So at the positions where the amplitude is more, intensity is more. So at those positions where the intensity is more, the probability of finding an electron is more. So according to the probability interpretation given by Max Born, he says electron is not localized in any finite region of space. Hence the position uncertainty is infinite. The probability of finding an electron is more in a certain region where the intensity of the matter wave is more. Now let us study how actually the uncertainty can be understood. Now if delta x and delta p are equal to some constant, then if you increase the uncertainty in position, then the uncertainty in momentum should decrease, vice versa. Now in the next slide we'll see how you can explain Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now let us have a look at these two slides. Now the first slide represents a localized wave packet. Now if you observe the wave pattern, this wave is not having any definite wavelength, because the wavelength, how do you define wavelength? It is the distance between two consecutive particles which are in phase with each other. In the second slide, now in this wave pattern, you can observe that the wave is progressing with a definite wavelength which is given by lambda, whereas in the first slide the wavelengths are not the same. This wave pattern is the superposition of number of waves put together. You have studied about the superposition principle in waves chapter of first PU. Now when more number of waves are superposed, then you will get resultant wave like this, where the wavelength is not the same and the amplitudes are also not the same. This pattern represents a matter wave. This is called localized wave packet. Now first let me explain this slide so that you will understand better the first slide. Now when you observe this wave has a definite wavelength. Now according to de Broglie's equation, lambda is equal to h by p. H is Planck's constant. So lambda is inversely proportional to the momentum. So when the wavelength is definite, momentum is also definite, which means the wave has a definite momentum. So when the momentum is definite, which means the velocity of the particle is definite at a particular instant, the probability of finding the particle is difficult, because the particle can be located anywhere between this wavelength. From here to here, the particle can be located anywhere between these 2 points between the wavelength. So when the particle has a definite wavelength, then there is uncertainty in the position of the particle. So this slide gives you an explanation saying that a particle which has a definite momentum, there is some uncertainty in the position of the particle. Similarly, if the position of the particle is definite, then the momentum of the particle is uncertain. So we say if P is definite, then delta P is the uncertainty. So delta P is equal to 0, which means delta X is equal to, which tends to infinity. So the uncertainty in the position becomes infinite. So the point which you have to remember is, if a particle has a definite momentum, then the uncertainty in position becomes infinite. Similarly, if the position is definite, then the uncertainty in momentum is infinity. But a matter wave does not have a definite wavelength or a definite position. Now if you look at the wave pattern, as I told you, these waves does not have a definite wavelength. So when there is no definite wavelength, momentum is also not definite. There is some uncertainty in the momentum of the particle. So delta P also is uncertain. Similarly, if you look at the position of the particle, the position, as I told you, it will be located between one particular wavelength. So you can just observe this, the electron may be anywhere between the spread. So therefore the position of the electron is also uncertain. So as a localized wave packet, there is always some uncertainty in position as well as some uncertainty in momentum also. Therefore, the wave packet description of an electron, if you observe, the wave packet corresponds to a spread of wavelength around some central wavelength. This is the central wavelength. So there are some wavelengths which are spread around the central wavelength, and therefore this wave is associated with uncertainty in position as well as uncertainty in momentum. Therefore, according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, there is always uncertainty in the position of the particle as well as uncertainty in momentum. Now in the next slide, the matter wave corresponding to a definite momentum, this will extend all over the space. When I say definite momentum, there is uncertainty in the position, which is given by when delta P is equal to 0, delta X tends to infinity. Now what is that you have to remember for this topic or the content is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It says you cannot measure both position as well as momentum for a particle. The particle should be microscopic in nature. This is applicable only for microscopic particles. For microscopic particles, you cannot measure exactly the position as well as momentum at the same time. At the same time is the keyword which you have to know. Hope you have understood this concept. Now in the next topic, we will be studying about a most interesting and appreciative experiment which was done by Davison and Germer. This experiment confirmed the wave nature of an electron. This you can expect for 5 marks. Now this was actually done to study the electron diffraction, but in the process they confirmed that electrons behave like waves. Now let us see the schematic diagram of the experiment. Now let me just introduce the experimental setup. Now if you just observe, there is a filament which is made up of tungsten and coated with barium oxide. Now the source is a filament. The source of electrons is the filament. Now we are supplying low tension battery. The filament is connected to a low tension battery. Due to this, the filament gets heated up and electrons are emitted from the filament. Now electrons are emitted from the filament and they are made to pass through a cylindrical tube which has a fine hole. Now when the electrons have to move through this, they need some energy to travel. So this energy is provided by high tension battery. So as soon as the electrons come here, these electrons are provided with energy through the high tension battery. These electrons are accelerated here, and these accelerated electrons, they move through the fine hole of this cylindrical shaped tube. As they come out of this tube, they are made to move only in one particular direction. So this beam, electron beam, is called a collimated beam. So this collimated beam of electrons are made to be incident on a target which is made up of nickel. So this is a nickel crystal. So the electrons which are accelerated, they are made to be incident on the nickel target. As soon as the electrons are incident, the electrons get scattered due to the atoms which are present in the nickel crystal. So theta represents the scattering angle, and these electrons, the dotted ones which you can see, these are representing the diffracted electron beams. And these electrons which are diffracted, they are detected by using a detector which can be moved. This is also called a collector which collects the electrons. So this is a movable collector which you can move along a circular scale, and a galvanometer is connected to this circular scale. The purpose of the galvanometer is to measure the current which is produced due to the flow of the electrons. Now this galvanometer is very sensitive, so it can measure the feeble current through its deflection, and the entire experimental setup is made vacuum so that the electrons which are scattered will not interact with the material particles of the medium. Now let us see the description and how the experiment is done. Now listen, as soon as the electrons are accelerated, they try to be incident on the nickel crystal, and the atoms, they try to scatter the electrons in different directions. Now there is an option of varying the potential provided to the electrons so that you can vary the accelerating voltages. So the accelerating voltages can be varied. So when you vary the accelerating voltages, the intensity of the electron beam which is incident varies, and the scattering angle also varies, and then the intensity of the electrons which are scattered also varies. So the experiment is repeated for different accelerating voltages which is varied from 48 to 68 volts. And for each time, the scattering angle as well as the intensity of the diffracted electron beam was studied, and graphs were plotted for all the different situations. Now just go through the content. This is enough for a 5 mark. Now this is the experiment, how the experiment was done. A fine beam of electrons is allowed to be incident on the nickel crystal, and the scattered beam of electrons is detected, and the experiment is performed by varying the accelerating voltage from 44 to 68 volts, and the variation of the intensity of the scattered electrons with the scattering angle is obtained for different accelerating voltages. Now the experiment was performed between different varying voltages. The observation done was the intensity of the scattered electron beam has a strong peak, which means the intensity was maximum at a scattering angle theta is equal to 50, and the corresponding accelerating voltage is equal to 54 volts. So the observation done was when they plotted graph between the intensity of the electron beam and the scattering angle as well as the accelerating voltage, they found the intensity was maximum for an accelerating voltage 54 volts, which corresponded to the scattering angle theta is equal to 50, and they concluded saying that the appearance of the peak, which means the intensity maximum in a particular direction, is due to the constructive interference of electron waves scattered from different layers of the regularly spaced atoms of the crystal, which means a crystal is made up of different layers of atoms. So when electrons are incident on the crystal, these electrons are diffracted from different layers of the atomic crystal, and these electrons, when they are diffracted from different layers, they interfere. So when they superpose with each other, at some positions they superpose in such a way that the amplitudes increase and which are in phase with each other. When the electrons superpose in such a way that they are interfering in reversal phase, the resultant amplitude becomes zero. Therefore, only in such positions where the constructive interference took place, the intensity was found to be maximum. This superposition you have studied in your first PU in waves lesson. When two waves which are traveling in the same direction, when they superimpose on each other, the amplitude becomes more. Similarly here also, when two electrons they superpose in the same direction, you can just have a constructive interference when the amplitude increases, which increases the intensity. And therefore, the conclusion of the experiment says the appearance of the peak, the reason behind the intensity maximum only at one particular position, is due to the constructive interference of the electron waves which are scattered from different layers of the regularly spaced atoms of the crystal. And then from the electron diffraction measurements, the wavelength of these matter waves was found to be 1.65. Already theoretically they found out the wavelength of the matter waves were equal to 1.65 angstrom. Now let's just have a look at the graphs for different voltages. Now observe these graphs. The graph is between incident beam and the intensity of the scattered beam for different voltages, 44, 48, 54 and 64 volts. Now if you observe the graph, x-axis represents the intensity. Now if you just observe the intensities, the intensity of the scattered beam is maximum in the third graph, which is corresponds to 54 volts, and the corresponding, now what do you mean by scattering angle? The scattering angle is the angle between the incident beam and the scattered beam. So this angle represents the scattering angle. In this case, if you observe, the x-axis value is greater in the third slide, so the intensity is maximum and the corresponding scattering angle was found to be 50 degrees. So when they plotted graphs for all those different readings, the graphs came out to be like this, and when they studied the graph, the intensity was found to be maximum corresponding to 54 volts, and hence they concluded that if the electrons are producing interference pattern and if the intensity is maximum only at one position and if the intensities are alternatively maximum and minimum, this behavior is only exhibited by waves, and hence they concluded that electrons also behave as waves, and hence this experiment concluded that and it confirmed that electrons also exhibit wave nature. So now according to de Broglie's hypothesis, you have already studied this equation in terms of potential. Lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 MeV. Now when you substitute all these values and calculate, you get this equation 12.27 angstrom divided by root V. Now for 54 volts, the value came out to be 1.67 and the theoretical value is 1.65 angstroms. So these two values, which is 1.65 theoretical value and experimental value is 1.67 angstrom, these two are in agreement with each other. Hence, this experiment confirmed the wave nature of electrons and the de Broglie equation. So this concludes the theoretical part of the lesson. In this session, you have studied about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, Max Born's probability interpretation, and then Davis-Germer experiment, which is very, very important for the final exam. You can expect this for 5 marks. You should be thorough with the diagram, schematic diagram, as well as the explanation. The content which is given is enough for 5 marks. You can just practice those sentences. And now this comes to the conclusion of the theory part of the session. In the next slide, we'll just go through some frequently asked questions, 1 mark, 2 mark and 5 mark questions. Now let us see the first question. Name the experiment which confirms the wave nature of material particle. The answer is Davis-Germer experiment. And the next one is state Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You can just write down the statement of the principle. Write the mathematical equation representing Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Mathematical equation is delta x into delta p is approximately equal to h cut. And then what was the outcome of Davis-Germer experiment? Outcome is the result of this experiment, which is to confirm the wave nature of light. So these two, first question and this question are repeatedly asked. So you just practice these questions. Next, mention one application of wave property of electrons. The wave property of electrons is used in electron microscope. And then the advantage of electron microscope over the optical microscope. The advantage is electron microscope has a higher resolution over optical microscope. Now for 2 mark questions. In 2 mark questions, Born's probability interpretation of matter waves, you have to just learn the statement and rewrite this. And then this again is important. Write the applications of de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves. Now de Broglie's hypothesis, it was a basic to the development of modern quantum mechanics. It also led to the field of electron optics, where electrons are used to construct the electron microscope, and the wave properties of electrons, which was confirmed by Davis-Germer, and later on J.P. Thomson also did experiment independently, and he also proved the wave nature of electron. The wave properties of electrons are utilized in the design of electron microscope, which is having high resolution over optical microscope. These applications are important, so you just go through these applications. And then the 5 mark question in this topic is describe Davis-Germer electron diffraction arrangement with a neat label diagram. So learn the diagram, description, observation and conclusion. So with this, we'll end session 5. In the next sessions, we'll start numericals of the lesson. Thank you.